Rhetoric is a wild word. It gets a bad rap sometimes because people use it to mean all talk and no action. Like, that's just mere rhetoric. And rhetoric is a thing that people want other people to tone down, to use differently, to be careful about. Like, hey, you need to tone down your rhetoric. Still, it's pretty unclear what rhetoric is all about. Rhetoric is a wild word and really hard to pin down for a few different reasons. First of all, rhetoric is a tool. It's something you can pick up and learn to use to get something else done. You know, like a shovel. You don't want to shovel. You want to scoop up all the dog's business from the lawn. So you use a shovel. Get it? Of course you do. In the same way, you don't want to rhetoric. You want to help your mom understand that giving you a little more cash will probably help you study better this month. So you use rhetoric. It's a tool. Somewhere around the 4th century BCE, we'll just say a super long time ago, Aristotle famously defined rhetoric. He said that rhetoric is finding the available means of persuasion in a given situation. Listen to that a little closer. Rhetoric means, for Aristotle, finding, not using, finding what you might use, those available means, to persuade someone, like your mom to give you cash, in a particular situation. This situation being that you need cash from your mom, but you just asked for money 2 weeks ago. Bummer. So here, rhetoric means you're going to have to pay attention. Hard. You're going to have to really work out. You're going to have to find what persuasive means are available to you in this situation. That means rhetoric is not just a tool. It is also, and really importantly, a practice. It's something you do, yeah? It's the shovel and the scooping of the dog's business. It's the specific words you use to ask for money and the actual asking of the money. It's a practice. It's an action. It's something that has to be done. Kind of like playing the banjo. You can't really point and say, look at that. That is banjo playing. What you're pointing at is either a banjo or an amazing person with amazing taste in musical instruments. The actual banjo playing is happening. It's an action. It's a practice. And so it is with rhetoric. Recap, real quick. Rhetoric does 2 things. It works as a tool that you can use, and it works as a practice that you perform. Keep Aristotle's definition in mind. It's all about finding, and finding is a practice, the available means, those are tools, of persuasion in a given situation. That last part means the rhetoric changes all the time in a given situation. So what works in one situation won't work in another. What works for one mom won't work for another. What works in biology class won't work in history class, and what works in history class won't work at the bar. And what works at the bar won't work at grandma's Thanksgiving table, at least not at my grandma's table. Stay with this idea for a little bit. Let's take something simple as an example. You have something to say in your medium-sized world religion class. So what do? You raise your hand. But nobody told you to raise your hand, at least not in this new situation. Maybe somebody told you in 2nd grade, maybe. It's hard to remember if you've been told, but no religion professor told you to raise your hand. You just did it. And now that professor is saying your name and waiting for you to talk. How does she know what you want? What is going on? This is all silly, I know, but the point is that this given situation persuaded you. That's right. All the stuff in the room, like desks, overhead projectors, notebooks, upcoming tests, dreams of graduation, it all comes together to persuade you to raise your hand. You're like Nike, you just do it. You raise your hand. You are persuaded. You are compelled by what? By the whole situation. Think about it. You don't raise your hand at a party unless you're trying to be kind of funny. So what does that mean? We got a third way to think about rhetoric now. Rhetoric is a tool, and it is a practice, and a compelling force that's bigger than any one person with one idea. That means, and this is so cool, that means rhetoric is also a compelling force that gets a writer to write, a speaker to speak, a dog business scooper to scoop dog business, a broke college student to call home. Rhetoric lies behind our desire to argue, to compliment, to finish that English paper earlier, to say I love you. Rhetoric is working on us even while we are using it and practicing it. It's wild. Still, so what, right? You're in an introductory level college English class. It doesn't really matter that rhetoric works as a tool and that you have to practice it and that it's some strange, compelling force. This is a legit concern. But here's the thing. Because rhetoric is a tool, a practice, and a compelling force, then you need to straight up obsess about it in your introductory level college English. Here's why. 1, you need to account for the ways every single one of the ways your teachers and professors want you to write, either on papers or on tests. They all want something different. That's just how writing works, both inside and outside of the college classroom. You need to understand rhetoric so you can account for each new situation. You need to figure out every single freaking writing situation because every single freaking writing situation is different every time. 2, the world is kind of harsh for all kinds of reasons. So while what you're doing in your own worlds deeply matters, how you're doing it, how you are practicing what you're doing, might matter even more. Obsessing about rhetoric helps you pay attention to how you're doing what you're doing. That can only be useful, and maybe even good. 3rd, or finally, it seems rhetoric is just happening all the time. All the time. It happens. You use it to get what you want. You practice it as you come alongside others and build new, important relationships or strengthen old ones. And it is working on you, compelling you to raise your hand in class, ask your mom for money, scoop dog business, or obsessively revise a text message for an hour because you want that good-looking person you're sending it to think it took you no time or thought at all. Rhetoric is a tool, a practice, and a compelling force. It's wild, and you engage in it all the time. Put simply, it impacts every aspect of writing. Get obsessive.